Undertaking the journey through Eiichiro Oda's One Piece can be very intimidating. Debuting in Weekly Shonen Jump back in July of 1997, One Piece has gone on to become the best-selling manga of all time, with well over 500 million copies sold. There is currently 1,091 chapters, and yes, it is still being written. There's roughly 45 to 48 chapters published per year. This man is insanely busy. So yes, the scale of the story is daunting. It is a big time commitment, but journey before destination, and I am fully prepared to enjoy the journey. Honestly, after reading these beginning arcs, I'm already 100% committed to reading all of One Piece. This video is part 1 of my ultimate review of One Piece, a new series on the channel where I'll be grouping together story arcs of One Piece and reviewing them. Now, every great story begins somewhere, and today we're looking at the beginning of an incredible tale. I'm going to be reviewing the first 3 arcs from Romance Dawn to Syrup Village. If you don't know, the story unfolds in sagas, which are then divided into individual story arcs. Now I know, you may be thinking, I'm likely making this video just to ride off the hype of the live action, which is actually releasing today on Netflix, the day that I'm posting this video. Actually, that was just really great timing. I have been wanting to make this video for a long time. Let me know if you want to see me make some episode reviews of the Netflix show, because I'm thinking about it. Anyways, this actually isn't my first time starting One Piece. I actually grew up reading the beginning of One Piece. When I was in elementary school, I used to steal my brother's Shonen Jump magazines and read them over and over. And then later on in grade 6, me and my friends found around 5 volumes of One Piece in the school library. Yes, my school library had manga. Talk about privileged. And I read all of them, but I remember those few volumes of One Piece being the story that really stuck with me. Me and my friends, we created our own crew. We drew a flag, we drew a ship, and we went on adventures together. It was amazing. It has been something I've been wanting to return to and finally get caught up on. It is finally time. I'm 100% committed to finishing all of One Piece. So I should probably lock myself in this room for a few months. But first, real quick, just like how the Straw Hats set out to find the ultimate treasure, you too can embark on a journey to discover your hidden talents and unlock your creative potential with today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Okay, let's be real, you probably already know that Skillshare is the biggest learning community for creatives. It is such a great platform for online courses on really anything you can think of, whether it's graphic design, photography, creative writing, baking, music production, video editing, productivity, and so much more. I have been using Skillshare for years now. I have learned so much, and I think it is such a great platform. And one of the recent courses I did was Notion Masterclass, Maximize Your Productivity and Organization, by the incredible Ali Abdal. And this class has helped me so much with keeping all my projects and YouTube stuff organized so I can stay productive and not get overwhelmed. And Ali does an amazing job at keeping it all engaging. I'm also just in the middle of a class on visual effects in After Effects by Amoni LaRussa, and this is already helping me level up my editing. There is so many good tips, which I'll be making use of here on the channel. Now, the best part is that you have the opportunity to access all of these classes for free. The first 1,000 of you to use my link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. I think it is so important to always be trying to learn new things and to improve your skills, so make sure to use the link in the description and try out some classes. Anyway, a huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Romance Dawn marks the very beginning of One Piece and spans chapters 1 to 7 of the manga, or the first 3 episodes of the anime. Now, I'm reading the manga in the Shonen Jump app, but I'm actually going to be using a lot of the colored manga panels as well as some footage from the anime just to spice things up a bit. Now, Romance Dawn packs so much into just a few chapters, and I would say it's an incredible introduction. It does a great job of introducing many of the key elements and main characters, not to mention almost every moment here is an iconic moment in One Piece. I felt so much nostalgia reading this humble beginning. Seriously, I can't think of any other series that's had me grinning from ear to ear right at the beginning. Now, it kicks off with the premise of the entire series, showing us Gold Roger, the Pirate King. Right before his execution, he announces to everyone that he's left his treasure in one place, but that in order to find it, they'll have to search the entire world. Now, this treasure becomes known as the One Piece. And it's this event that kicks off the Great Age of Pirates, commencing a global treasure hunt. Now, this is one of the best first pages in manga that I've ever read. In just a single page, we get the main objective of the entire series. Not to mention, it also establishes Roger as a remarkable man. His words were able to drive people all throughout the entire world towards a single goal. And now I really want to learn more about this Pirate King. Anyways, 12 years later, we're introduced to our young protagonist, Monkey D. Luffy, who's stabbing himself in the face. He was just trying to gain the respect of the boys, but Luffy, you didn't have to do that. Now, this was actually one of the first censors in the anime version. They didn't show Luffy stabbing himself. The anime removed it entirely, and fans had to wonder for a long time how Luffy got his scar, until they added it way later on in the show as a flashback. Now, Luffy dreams of becoming a pirate and joining red-haired Shanks. Now, Shanks, I've always thought has a really cool design, and I love his interactions with Luffy. You can tell from all the teasing and the banter that they've known each other for quite a while. And his crew also has a lot of personality to them as well. Now, some bandits arrive at the bar, the leader smashes a bottle over Shanks' head, and you can tell by the casual way that he handles himself that this is a man that knows how to keep his cool when it's needed. Now, during this entire encounter, Luffy accidentally consumes a devil fruit that was a piece of treasure belonging to Shanks and his crew. And it's this fruit which turns him into a rubber man. However, this does come with a curse. He loses his ability to swim, which, you know, isn't that ideal when you're wanting to become a pirate and sail the seas. Now, Luffy ends up causing a lot of trouble with the thugs, and the leader of which ends up beating him pretty bad. But then Shanks takes action, and I really love this badass scene where his crew quickly takes out the bandits. But then the leader ends up kidnapping Luffy and tries to drown him. Shanks follows, and then to my utter surprise, Shanks loses his arm protecting Luffy from this giant sea monster. Somehow I completely forgot that that happens, and it really took me by surprise. This emotional gut punch makes me appreciate Shanks as a character even more, especially the way he reacts by saying, "It's nothing, it's just an arm, as long as you're alive." Before Shanks and his crew depart from the village, Luffy vows to one day surpass Shanks and become king of the pirates. And in return, one of my favorite moments so far, Shanks then gives him his straw hat and makes him promise to return it once he becomes a great pirate. I feel like these two emotional scenes perfectly pay off the relationship that we saw building throughout this opening chapter. And it also sets the stage for a long-lasting objective of the series to return the hat. This entire opening does a fantastic job of establishing Luffy's character. Luffy learns what it means to be a pirate by interacting with his role model Shanks. He learns about loyalty and camaraderie, friendship, and sacrificing in order to protect those you care about. Now, I remember as a dumb little kid that I always thought that Shanks was Luffy's father. Because, I mean, he does kind of act like a father figure to Luffy. He saves him from pirates, he warns him against eating something, he gives him the hat, and urges him to become a strong pirate. I don't know, my brain wasn't fully developed yet. 10 years later, we see Luffy's first outing at sea with the simple goal of finding crew members, and this is a fantastic follow-up to what we got in the first chapter. He punches the same sea monster that ate Shanks' arm, and easily dealing with a creature that seemed completely untouchable when he was a kid. I also really love that some of the artwork kind of has this Disney style to it. I mean, look at the Lord of the Coast. I really love how casual Luffy is as his little rowboat is being sucked into a whirlpool. I could really use that level of chill, or maybe Luffy is just dumb, I don't know. But I mean, it was a genius move surviving in a barrel. He's then rolled aboard Lady Elvira's ship. Now, this is when we meet Kobe, a boy who wants to be a Marine. And Kobe was a character I actually remember disliking when I read this as a kid. But now I appreciate him a lot more. He's a perfect foil for Luffy. He's very much such a negative thinker and always points out the impossible, while Luffy just pounds him in the head and says, "I don't care, I'm gonna do it anyways." I really enjoy how blatantly direct Luffy is in both his actions and the way that he speaks. He's honest to his bones, and how he manages to inspire Kobe, I really enjoyed, because honestly, Luffy inspires me as well. I can often fall into negative thinking, I'm sure a lot of us can relate, but the optimism and determination that Luffy shows is just so motivating. And of course we meet one of the first villains in the series who Luffy punches in the face. Alvida, I think, is a fine enough villain. I mean, so far there's been some really great character designs, and I think her character design is pretty good as well. However, compared to all the other villains I'm gonna mention in this review, she's probably my least favorite, and I can see this interaction becoming a little forgettable later on. But I do gotta say, that punch was very satisfying. And this entire scene works really well to showcase Luffy's abilities. He also gains his first friend in Kobe and frees him from the servitude of Alvida. And looking for a strong individual to join the crew, Kobe guides Luffy to Shell Island to search for Roanoa Zoro, a bounty hunter held under arrest by Captain Morgan for threatening the Marines. And they end up finding Zoro tied to his stake in the naval base, starving himself. I noticed a bit of foreshadowing that I liked when Luffy and Kobe mention Captain Morgan, and the villagers get even more scared than when they mention Zoro. So we can gather that this captain is not well loved by the townsfolk, but I wasn't expecting his son to be such an unlikable asshat. Helmeppo is the definition of a spoiled brat, and when the little girl brought over some rice balls for Zoro, and Helmeppo crushes them, and then throws the little girl over the fence, I was begging for someone to punch him in the face, and thankfully, it didn't take long for Luffy to bring that satisfaction. Bless your soul, Luffy. And then again, later, when his own father smacks him and calls him out for his whininess. I mean, I'm not supporting domestic abuse, but Helmeppo, he kind of had it coming. And let me mention the elephant in the room here, he is clearly nothing like his father. Captain Morgan uses his rank and strength to intimidate the entire town. He's a tyrannical, power-hungry Chad, and watching Luffy prove himself to Zoro while they take down this captain, earning the pirate hunter's respect and loyalty, I thought was just really satisfying. Also, Zoro fights with 3 swords, one in his mouth. Don't question it. The thing is, like Lady Alvida, these two are not very interesting villains in themselves, but they are pretty unforgivable, so watching them get beat is a lot of fun. Now in this arc, we also get Zoro's flashbacks, where we learn what he's fighting for, and Zoro's rivalry coming to an abrupt and unsatisfying end is a really great backstory, and I really want to learn more about Zoro now. Anyways, in this mini arc, we learn that you can't trust the Navy just as much as you can't trust a pirate. There is some truly honorable Marines out there, like the ones who salute Luffy and Zoro at the end of this chapter. Obviously, they're very grateful they got rid of Captain Morgan. And in a similar regard, there's also good and bad pirates out there. Now, of course, Zoro is recruited as the first crew member, while still intending on becoming the greatest swordsman to ever live. And Luffy didn't recruit him just because of his strength, he recruited Zoro because he realized that he was a good person. Oh, and again, I really enjoyed Kobe's arc this time around. At the end, we see him putting into motion his own dreams and staying behind to join the Marines. Really, Kobe begins his own journey at the same time that Luffy does, and while I mentioned they both have different ways of thinking, in some ways they're actually kind of similar. He's a young boy discovering his dreams and gaining the courage to pursue them. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really remember that much about Kobe other than the fact that I didn't like him when I was a kid, so I've really got no clue if he's going to play a bigger role further down in the story, but I really hope that he does. And I've got a good feeling we're gonna see more of him. I'm really hoping we get to see Kobe advance in rank and become like a renowned member of the Navy so that we can see a really big payoff for this introduction later on. I do gotta say, this initial arc does a really good job of handling the variety in the villains. There's the vain, brutal pirate, the spoiled brat, and his power-hungry father. They're decent enough, but they really don't compare to Buggy. The first arc is a fantastic introduction. It sets the tone of the series with more comedic bits and darker moments. We get introduced to some of the main crew and learn about their motivations, and really, this is the perfect setup. Already, in Chapter 1, Luffy sets sail to a world of possibilities, and you don't know what he's gonna find out in that big wide world. I am so excited every time he lands on a new island because I don't know what to expect. The sense of adventure is probably my favorite thing about One Piece. And it must be evident by now, but romance in the title is not the romance of, like, love, but the grandeur concept of romance. The romance of adventure. And this first arc is the dawn of Luffy's grand adventure. Moving on to Orange Town, this covers chapters 8 to 21, or episodes 4 to 8 of the anime. Now, I would say this is the first proper arc of One Piece. Everything before this was mostly setup, with some throwaway villains. This one still does have a lot of setup, but here we meet one of the best villains ever, Buggy the Clown. The introduction to Buggy is one of my favorite parts so far, and this abandoned town that's been taken over by pirates, I just thought was a really cool idea. Neither Luffy and Zoro know how to navigate, so they quickly end up lost and low on food, but then Luffy is caught up by a giant bird, and Zoro sails after him in hot pursuit, and this leads them to Orange Town, where a pirate crew led by Buggy the Clown has taken up residence. Obviously, it's setting up for the dire need for a navigator, and here Luffy meets Nami, a cunning thief with great navigational skills and a strong hatred for pirates. She happens to have stolen a very valuable treasure, a map of the Grand Line. And here we get some exposition about the mysterious and dangerous Grand Line, an area said to have unspeakable riches, and it may be the area of Gold Roger's treasure. Now, in the anime, I was kind of confused because Nami was actually the very first Straw Hat to make an appearance, even before Luffy. So the entire intro is a little bit different in the anime compared to the manga. Anyways, Nami initially tries to partner with Luffy, but then she decides to hand him over to Buggy. And then Zoro arrives to slice up Buggy, only to reveal that he has a devil fruit power that makes him impervious to blades. His power is that of the Chop Chop fruit that allows him to separate his body however he wants. Seriously, a clown that can dismember himself into floating segments. That is truly some nightmare fuel. Oh, and apparently Buggy, along with Shanks, used to be members of the Roger Pirates. Yes, as in Gold Roger. However, some mysterious argument led Buggy and Shanks to go their separate ways, filling Buggy with a lot of bitterness and resentment. So yeah, Buggy ends up stabbing Zoro, and you would think being stabbed in the side and then expanding the wound by carrying a huge cage would make fighting a little bit more difficult. But you know, actually, the Buggy Pirates hardly gave Luffy and Zoro much trouble at all. They end up getting away, and we meet the mayor of the town and a dog named Chow Chow, who's guarding the abandoned pet shop of his long-deceased owner. It is so tragic. The poor dog is just waiting for his owner to come back. Chow Chow's unwavering devotion kind of parallels some real-life accounts of dogs who have been faithful to their long-dead masters, like the story of Hachi. It's safe to say I absolutely love Chow Chow. How can you not get emotional during this fight with the weird lion tamer? And pretty much the entire scene afterwards, when Luffy returns the last dog food from the demolished store to Chow Chow, it really affects Nami, and it truly speaks volumes of Luffy's character. Luffy kicking the dismembered Buggy in the crotch is never not gonna make me laugh. That is probably one of my favorite panels so far. I also really love the panel of Luffy poking Chow Chow and then the dog biting him in the face. Now, this entire fight with Buggy I thought was amazing. This is the first time we see two Devil Fruit users fight each other. And while they did end up beating Buggy and his crew pretty easily, I thought he was a super interesting early villain, and I can't wait to see him return. His powers and his design are just so brilliant. Now, when we first meet Nami, she's kind of this cold-hearted, manipulative person, but as the story progresses, I can tell that she's much deeper than she appears, and I think she actually has a pretty strong moral compass. Watching Luffy earn Nami's respect just by being who he is, and not even really trying, shows his character so perfectly. Nami also proves pretty vital during the fight, as she manages to trap Buggy's detached body parts, leaving him vulnerable to Luffy. And at the end, she gives Luffy the map to the Grand Line in thanks and agrees to join his crew as the navigator. The Orange Town arc keeps laying down that same groundwork of key themes like friendship, trust, and pursuing your dreams. Now, Orange Town was a fairly short arc, but I thought it was really enjoyable. The best part, obviously, was Chow Chow, and also being introduced to Buggy. Overall, I think it was pretty solid. Now moving on to the Syrup Village arc. This spans chapters 22 to 41 and episodes 9 to 18. Now that they have a better sense of direction thanks to Nami's navigational skills, the Straw Hat Pirates arrive at their next destination. Wait a minute. I have seen a lot of people skip over the short adventure that happened right before this, and I'm not gonna let that happen. The Island of Rare Animals is a single chapter that I don't think deserves to be overlooked. This is an island in the East Blue that's populated by bizarre hybrid creatures, and there they meet Gaiman, a pirate that's the only person living on the island, but he's been stuck in a treasure chest for many, many years now, after being abandoned by his crew while searching for treasure. Now, it's during this weird little adventure that Nami shares some really important world building. We learn that this world has two oceans, and the land that splits these two oceans is called the Red Land. The only pirate ever able to conquer the Red Line was Gold Roger, making it a likely location for the One Piece. This little bit of information makes this odd detour pretty important. Anyways, at the end, Gaiman ends up staying on the island in order to take care of the animals, and I honestly really enjoyed this little side quest. Okay, moving on to Syrup Village. In short, this is basically Oda's version of The Boy Who Cried Wolf. They're immediately greeted by Captain Usopp and his 8,000 men crew, which are really just 3 children that follow him around. Usopp is a brave coward. That's kind of the best way I would describe him. He does kind of have the potential to be an annoying character, but they do give him enough serious moments to prevent that. Usopp doesn't just stretch the truth, he lies in order to tell a fun story, and the whole village kind of knows him as a liar. Honestly, I didn't like his character that much at first. I don't remember liking him too much when I was younger either, but learning about his history does make me feel for him more, and I did end up liking him by the end of this arc. The scene with him screaming for help and trying to warn the villagers but nobody believing him was so nerve-wracking. Now, when Usopp's friend Kaya, who's confined to her bed, is attacked by her own butler, who turns out to be the infamous Captain Kuro, the Straw Hats rush into the rescue. Also, shout out to Mary. He's a real bro. And here we get one of the first really hateable villains. The man posing as Kaya's butler is actually Captain Kuro of the Black Cat Pirates. He wants to retire from piracy and has been concocting a plan to eventually attain the fortune of Kaya. Now, I think he's actually a really interesting character, and the flashbacks to his pirate years were really fascinating. And Luffy and him do not see eye to eye in the slightest. They disagree strongly on what it means to be a pirate. Kuro believes Luffy doesn't possess the qualities to be a captain and that he's way too naive. And Luffy loathes him because of how he treats his own crew members and obviously for trying to harm his friends. Now, while I do find him to be a really cool villain, his crew on the other hand was pretty silly. Especially those 2 cat guys, I don't remember their names. They just kinda seem like big jokes, but it took Zoro way too long to defeat them. Django I thought was more interesting, but he doesn't get that much time to shine. I feel like he was actually sort of underused. But his hypnosis ability and how he kept hypnotizing himself was some really great comic relief. But the way that Usopp took him down was a little bit underwhelming in my opinion, but it did give our new crew member his moment. Now, over the course of Syrup Village, Usopp does become more likable, though he still isn't really my favorite character, but learning about his childhood and how he lied for the sake of his mother did make me care for him a lot more. And then watching him fight off people way stronger than him despite being scared was very admirable. I do feel like the big fight it kind of overstayed its welcome a bit. It was dragged out a little too long in my opinion, but Usopp's desire to protect his village and his friends shows the strength of his character underneath. He may not be the strongest of the Straw Hat crew, but his loyalty and bravery make him a valuable member that brings some comedic relief. Also, I liked how he tried cheering up Kaya every day by telling her fanciful stories. Now, his father, Yasopp, was a member of Shanks' crew, and someone Luffy actually met as a child, which I thought was a really cool connection, and this is something that bonds Luffy and Usopp. Now, the Syrup Village arc brings not just a new crewmate. Kaya gifts the Straw Hat Pirates with a new ship called the Going Merry. With its sheep figurehead and bright red sails, this is a pretty iconic design. I really want to get a model of this to place on my shelf. Really, the Going Merry isn't just a ship, it's also a home to the crew. The crew ends up feeling motivated as they continue onward toward the Grand Line and the adventures that come in between. Overall, I would say this arc was a little bit slower. It wasn't really my favorite, but it wasn't bad. I was actually pretty surprised to find out this is a lot of people's least favorite arc. I guess that means there's a lot of good ones ahead of me. Meeting Usopp, the twist with Kuro, and the heartwarming ending when they tell Usopp to get on like he was already an established crewmate were all really great moments. I am already loving this series, and I can't wait to read more. This is the final arc I'm going to be reviewing in this video, but I will be posting my Baratier review very soon. Is it Baratier or Baratier? I don't know. And that was part 1 of my ultimate review for One Piece. I'm gonna be working on the next part very soon. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think in the comments. This was like my first big One Piece video, and I'm excited to make more. As I was editing this video, I actually decided to order the first box set of One Piece, so that should be arriving tomorrow. I am so excited. Okay, the box set just arrived, and wow, I love it so much. As much as I would love to get the other box sets, they're pretty pricey, so I'll probably just treasure this one for now. Anyways, make sure to subscribe and like the video if you want to see more One Piece videos, and follow me along as I read through the series. I'll see you guys next time. And I want to say a huge thank you to all of my patrons. I put a lot of work into this video, and it wouldn't have been possible without your support, so I appreciate it so much.